Wagga, wagga, wagga. Now, let's get to this, people. LeBron Ramon James. Shouts out to Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark from The Pivot, the podcast, everything around it. It dictates and screams change in sports media. Absolutely. Now, here's the problem that many don't seem to understand when it comes to sports news. LeBron James has basically created his own media outlet, and he has the people that signed up with the same agency that he represents to represent him in such a way, in such a manner, and such a display to where it almost didn't make sense in an instance, when you saw certain developments happen within the industry and entertainment and the biased propaganda pieces that are pushed in these narratives to keep LeBron James' name in the light. Whenever he does something wrong, it's never highlighted by the media. They never cover it. They act as if it never happened. So the mainstream media don't know. Now, because of internet, and the internet media is rivaling professional sports media, it's very hard for you to keep people in their place now. And it's to the point now where the internet media is being heard a lot more because they shield the truth from mainstream, and people want the truth. So if they go to the internet and get it, they trust that a lot more. So when you see something like what Ryan Clark is doing, someone that's from sports media, now the people in sports media are trying to do what they're doing, pivot. So they're pivoting back to the internet, build their profiles up, and it gives them more of a boost on the mainstream platform. You just saw Ryan Clark get a great contract extension, right? Now, LeBron don't like myself because I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not going to go for the banana in the tailpipe. Everybody's celebrating 40,000 points. It's a milestone. No, it isn't. Every point he scored will be a milestone if he's already surpassed the highest person that ever did it. So it's like every year we got to think of something new to celebrate LeBron for, to try to promote the game, and it's sad, And now we got Ryan Clark, who comes out and changes this narrative that LeBron created. He comes out and attacks the media as if they're on Bronny's back. He's the one that put everybody on Bronny's back. The ESPN mock draft they did that took Bronny out of the first round and moved him to the next year's draft, and they removed him from the mock draft, wasn't a disrespect of Bronny. They just felt 2025 would be the best year for him to come out. That's all they were saying. They didn't say anything extra. They didn't say anything derogatory about Bronny James. So the fact is, the sports media decided to bite back at LeBron James. For a very rare period of time, I was shocked that most people decided to come. But when they did, we noticed a narrative. Everything was done to a slight. So everyone is starting to pivot from the situations that they're faced with. You're starting to see a definite change that's not normally for the good. You're starting to see things that don't normally go along with success. You're normally seeing something that goes along with just changing the narrative. When the Nuggets won, here comes the distraction about LeBron, how he might retire, to take attention away from the Nuggets championship. This is what I mean by controlling the narrative of the media and how the internet has a voice. And that voice of the internet is now controlling mainstream media. And they could fight the system, as we've been doing for the last 7, 8, 9 years. We've always fought the system. And now this hierarchy of sports media can be combated when people are saying, I don't have to be aligned with your production company. I don't have to be with Uninterrupted. I don't have to be aligned with whatever agenda you guys have with the NBA. I don't have to do that. I could tell my truth. They're never going to have Ryan Clark on NBA Today. Why would he be on there? They don't want him on there because he's going to tell you the truth and what he feels. He never said anything negative about Bronny or LeBron James. But what he said was so clear and it was so precise, it could not be ignored. Shouts out to the Pivot and yes, the Pivot podcast, and shouts out to around the association for putting this together. Let's look at
what to say about this. Let's speak.
To me, it's not about Bronny James. It's about LeBron James. It's about LeBron James, who once tweeted, "My son is better than a lot of these guys I watch on League Pass." It's about LeBron James saying out loud, "I want to play long enough to play with my son," which is a presumptive way to say, I expect him to be in the NBA. The first person to ever talk about Bronny James in the NBA was LeBron James. And so you now can't, when the projections aren't what you want, the projections aren't what you thought, you can't now be upset. You can't now go on the defensive. You can't ask people whose jobs it is to project who will be drafted, to project when they'll be drafted, to not include your son if he has played well enough to be there. The problem is this: it wasn't top 10 in 2024. The problem is it wasn't what you hoped or what you'd expected. And because of that, you now feel some way where you've gotten defensive. And I do love LeBron James, the father. I do love LeBron James, the family man. But there's also a reason that a kid that's averaging 5 points a game gets highlights on SportsCenter because he has an alley-oop layup. It's because he is Bronny James. It's a reason why a high school kid who's not the top player in the country has a documentary on him. It's because he's Bronny James. And so all of this comes with the territory. I think the weirdest part or saddest part or most ironic part is that when this mock draft came out, it didn't come out as a bad thing. People were celebrating that Bronny James would one day be drafted. It's just that it's not the King James sort of hype. And I believe that that has affected LeBron.
That couldn't be articulated any better, sir.
Yep, and I agree. And it's not an attack on Bronny James. What Ryan Clark just did was break down everything that you've ever thought about entertainment, ever thought about this sport, and what athletes' projections may be. And because Bronny's season didn't play out the way y'all thought, you put all this pressure on him when you didn't even have to say a goddamn word. None of this talk was going on when you were making documentaries on Bronny. When ESPN is highlighting Bronny for having a dunk, like he just said, none of this talk was going on. If Bronny was averaging 15 points a game and about 6 assists a game, none of this talk would be even taking place. They'll be writing these puff pieces about how great Bronny James is. That your pundits that signed with Clutch Sports, Dave McMenamin, Wojnarowski, all of these people whose jobs is to cover the NBA is worried about Bronny James. Brian Windhorst covering LeBron James. But now there's a switch. Oh, a big switch has happened now, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, there's a big switch that's been hit. Now, the big pivot moves, they seem to be lightening the push of Bronny James. They're taking the foot off the throttle. When you said Bronny was better than half those players that was on League Pass that you're watching, it was okay for LeBron to disrespect his teammates by saying Bronny James could be on the Lakers right now. It was clearly you trying to dictate, saying that you wanted to play your final season with your son. Now, here's one of those Bleacher Reports. Okay? Bleacher Report comes out and makes a bold statement here. See if I can blow this up for you guys. If you guys can't see it, we're going to go through it like this. There we go. USC freshman Bronny James, right? They state he's going to enter the 2024 draft based on teams interested in him rather than the pick that he'll be selected with. Rich Paul, the agent and longtime friends of LeBron James, weighed in on the choice that the young James will make. I don't value a young player getting into the lottery as much as I do getting him on the right team with the right developmental situation. As he spoke yesterday, to Adrian Wojnarowski, who is with who? Clutch Sports. So why not talk to the same people that you're representing by, right? But it don't stop there. The ideal situation for Bronny could be on a team that his father isn't playing for. Despite the elder James' interest in sharing the court with his son in the NBA. Why are they pivoting now? It was always an ideal situation for Bronny to not be on a team with his fucking father. Why would that alleviate any pressure from Bronny? That would just add more. As it becomes a dog and pony show of just father and son duo, rather than the sport and the game itself. Now, here's Rich Paul saying LeBron wants Bronny to be his own man. Although he's noted that LeBron would be head over heels excited if that were to happen organically. What's the pivot now? What is the pivot? Why are they doing this? Now, here's Wojnarowski. The 19-year-old has struggled to maintain his efficiency as he's moved back and forth between the starting lineup and the bench. averaging 5.3 points and 2.8 rebounds in 19 minutes per play. Before Saturday's action, while shooting 37% from the field and 27% from three, James didn't fare much better against Washington on Saturday, attempting just one shot in 14 minutes off the bench, while grabbing 3 rebounds and dishing out 2 assists. It's worth noting that he didn't make his college debut until December 10th as he recovered from suffering a cardiac arrest during a workout in July. He was diagnosed with a congenital heart defect. Now, you see that right there, right? That's the excuse they just tried to make. Now they want to blame it on the heart attack, right? If there's an NBA team or situation that feels comfortable with, he could return, that he does not feel comfortable with, that's what they said. He could return to college for his sophomore year that way. James would be able to go through a normal offseason and avoid joining his teammates on the floor just over a month into the season. It isn't difficult to imagine his shooting percentages increasing in that scenario too. So they're lobbying the pivot for Bronny to stay in college, right? None of this NBA talk. Now they're trying to say we got to find the right developmental situation for him. Do you think Wojnarowski would say something like that? Do you think Adrian Wojnarowski, who signed with Clutch Sports, is sitting there with Rich Paul, would write anything that's saying anything about Bronny not playing with LeBron? Why now? When he was coming out of high school, that's all you talked about. Now you want to blame the cardiac arrest. When I said he should have sat out a year, at least, to monitor who rushed him on the court. So now it doesn't work out the way you planned. Let's blame the cardiac arrest. Maybe Bronny shouldn't come out this year, and we should wait till next year. Let him stay in college. It's going to be the kid's decision. LeBron wants Bronny to be his own man. Let him make his own decision. Bronny James will be on the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James, probably at the end of this season. If he plays another year in college, then they'll have to see. The problem that they're having here is that Bronny James at USC, because everyone tried to attack their developmental system at USC, there was no room for him at UCLA. None. Zero. The scouting reports was already done for the team. Bronny was just used as a marketing ploy for USC. They've already had their recruiting process done and got the guys that they recruited. Bronny was not anybody they scouted. Bronny wanted to go there, and they made the exception to bring him on to the team and take on another recruit. So I don't see any of their guys leaving next year to go to the pros. This is a team that's not even a 500 ball club. Speaking about USC. Bronny is someone who I don't see the confidence level very high. His father is not a very confident person. They have to instill that fake propaganda stuff into his head. But mentally, he's not a mentally strong individual. He acts more of a spoiled child himself. So it's not shocking that his son doesn't have that killer instinct, that dog, that go out and get it. In his last game, he shot one shot in 14 minutes on the court. Very passive, not aggressive. And it leads people to wonder, why? Why were they pushing him so entirely hard? And it takes me back to Ryan Clark's statements. Ryan Clark's statement to me was everything. It said it perfectly. If I ever had the words to say it and couldn't find the words to express how I felt about the situation, he put it in the clearest and best form anyone could ever say.
LeBron James. It's about LeBron James, who once tweeted, "My son is better than a lot of these guys I watch on League Pass." It's about LeBron James saying out loud, "I want to play long enough to play with my son," which is a presumptive way to say, I expect him to be in the NBA. The first person to ever talk about Bronny James in the NBA was LeBron James. And so you now can't, when the projections aren't what you want, the projections aren't what you thought, you can't now be upset. You can't now go on the defensive. You can't ask people whose jobs it is to project who will be drafted, to project when they'll be drafted, to not include your son if he has played well enough to be there. The problem is this: it wasn't top 10 in 2024. The problem is it wasn't what you'd hoped or what you'd expected. And because of that, you now feel some way where you've gotten defensive. And I do love LeBron James, the father. I do love LeBron James, the family man. But there's also a reason that a kid that's averaging 5 points a game gets highlights on SportsCenter because he has an alley-oop layup. It's because he is Bronny James. It's a reason why a high school kid who's not the top player in the country has a documentary on him. It's because he's Bronny James. And so all of this comes with the territory. I think the weirdest part or saddest part or most ironic part is that when this mock draft came out, it didn't come out as a bad thing. People were celebrating that Bronny James would one day be drafted. It's just that it's not the King James sort of hype. And I believe that that has affected LeBron.
Boom! Boom! The ego has been struck. So, with this narrative that's been going out there, it's okay to say he ain't ready. I mean, cool. That is the most crucial thing you could ever go through as a individual, as a human being, whatever you want to call it, right? Bronny James is simply just not ready for the NBA. And that's not a bad thing. It's a lot of players that's not. But what are you saying to all those other players? I mean, Bronny brings a lot more to the table marketing wise because of who his father is. So saying I want him to be his own man is kind of hard when you are in your father, in his layup line. Michael Jordan used to sit in the corner and watch his sons play. We watched his nephew play. Michael Jordan sat in the corner all the way at the top. He didn't yell at the refs. He didn't do it. He sat there and watched. He stayed out of it. You on the court slam dunking in the layup line. You're arguing with the announcer, PA announcer at the AAU games. What are we talking about, people? A narcissistic human being in LeBron James, right? And what he's been going through in the process. Right. And the process that we were going through, man, it's just, we've seen it. We know what it is. And it's not changing. So when you read and go through this narrative, all Laker fans want to know is, what are you, LeBron James, are going to do for the Los Angeles Lakers? That's it. What are you going to do for the Lakers? Are you going to bring real NBA championships through that door? No, you're not. No one respects you. No one values you. Your 40,000, whatever the old little ceremony they did, no one cares. No real ballers care. Because no one cared about who had the most. Do they do the who's got the most rebounds in rebound history? Do they do the who got the most assists? Are they gonna stop the game and say what's a milestone? You know, Stockton, I still think probably has the record for now. But if somebody passed Stockton, would they be better than Stockton? Would they be better than Magic? Would they be better than Isaiah? Those guys only played like 11 years. Stockton played way more than Isaiah. Isaiah only played, 13 seasons, and really he was done after 11 seasons. The last 2 seasons, he was just injured. So he really had 11 years. Now, the way we're looking at the situation is from a different perspective. The narrative that we're looking at now is, what are you going to do, LeBron? All the chips is on the floor for you to be great. The ball's in your court. What are you going to do for the Los Angeles Lakers this season? Y'all in 10th place. The league is going to keep you in that play-in situation, so you can end up playing an easier seed with either OKC or Minnesota. So y'all going to eventually come out of the play-in situation. Y'all going to be 7th and 8th place, playing one of those 2 seeds. It's predictable. Okay, since they started the play-in situation, this has been the narrative. Keep these low market teams up in the top brackets and have this play-in teams and this play-in tournament with your big stars in it, right? Highlight and promote your little play-in tournament that you want to do, and have those guys go in the playoffs and beat the top seeds to make the league look competitive. Having the Minnesota Timberwolves at the top of the basketball world doesn't fool anybody. I've seen them carry Minnesota a lot of nights when they were coming up short down the stretch. I've seen them carry Minnesota and give them a lot of calls. I've seen them carry this team. They want them to be number one. Trust me, this whole thing is more corrupt than you can imagine. But anyway, I'm out of here. Shouts out to Kwame Brown, Bust Life. Ticket TV, The Dreamers Pro, Jag Sports with Jose Rodriguez. And I am out the door, and it ain't even 4.